Darryl, could you just maybe get it started relative to your take on the book and knowing the audience that we have? Get we can once we get Darryl on a roll, you know it's going to go. Okay.
Well, I'm going to throw a big one in right away, Wally. And I think Darryl knows what I'm going to ask him about. He makes a pretty loaded comment about women's hockey pretty early on in the book, which I loved. In terms of how far behind or where the player development and the pushing of the players. I don't have it in front of me, sorry, Darryl, and I apologize if I'm misquoting. But the sense that I got is that we are doing a disservice, and by we I mean coaches like me, skills coaches, team coaches, by not pushing the female game further and asking more of the players and demanding more of them, and that there's a great capacity there. So in light of, I guess, the PWHL draft that just happened, I was curious, you sort of left it there, and I'm not sure if you revisit women's hockey later in the book. I haven't gotten that far. But I'd love to hear just some quick insights on, what coaches on this call could do, or people listening to this recording. Obviously we're not all going to get the chance to, coach Poulin anytime soon, but, how can we develop players so that there isn't that massive gap or that, undervaluing of what the women are capable of?
Yeah, I think like I've said this many times in many different forums, and I thoroughly believe it, that I think that as far as the women's game has come, which I think it's come miles, obviously there's unbelievably good players, there's talent everywhere around the world, and all of that is true. And there's phenomenal people that are around the women's game that are doing great work. However, in general, I think that we have not provided them with the same amount of development opportunity as it relates to really experiencing what the game has to totally offer. And what I mean by that is like there's there's parts of the game that the boys get a chance to enjoy that I don't think the women get a chance to enjoy the same way. And what I mean by that is truly understanding how to play off the puck offensively, for example, is one. And the reason for that is because a lot of the situations that these girls are in, the better girls have an ability to just feast off of loose pucks. They don't really have to move purposefully to get the puck earlier than men. So when the boys are doing it, like you get to like Pee Wee, you get to you can go novice and Adam.
Somebody's got their speaker on, Darryl.
Oh,
Turn it off, please, Tom.
you go to like novice and Adam in boys hockey, and you get kids that you're playing a tennis match of one kid gets it, skates it down the ice, and then their other best player gets it, skates it all the way down. There's no plays that are made, but the reality of not having to be able to do things all on your own or solve problems all on your own tends to come way earlier in the boys game than it does in the female game. So a lot of the females I find, and as I went through it with Ella, I noticed that there was just that inability to understand how to play off the puck and the need to play off the puck really well to be able to get pucks. We don't have that as early, which is a disservice to the overall experience of the game. So there's a lot of girls that can get away with not having to play very effectively off the puck other than just reading where to find loose pucks, and they just go get loose pucks and they go solve the problem on their own, and they just get it and go. And you see it a lot also with defensemen. So a lot of the
Darryl,
defense.
before you go any further, um, play off the puck versus playing without the puck. Can you distinguish that? Because play off the puck for most of our audience, because you're into playing off the puck, gets possession of the puck. You're playing offense in your mind. Can you distinguish between the two for the people that are listening? Play off the puck versus playing without it, which is defensive hockey.
Well, what I'm talking about is when a teammate has the puck, that you would move in advance of the player with the puck deciding what they want to do. So you would move in advance of that to influence where the puck goes. So, for example, if you had an offensive player who entered, was in the corner, say you have an offensive player with a puck in the corner with time and space, and you have a non-puck carrier who is in support of this puck, who is like the high forward. Instead of standing in the high forward position and just standing there waiting for this player to pass them the puck, that they would like move like towards the dot line and then start coming on an angle towards the net. So when they caught the puck, their feet were already pointed at the net. They were already a threat and ready to shoot. So they're doing things in advance of the puck to get it to maintain a competitive advantage. That's playing off the puck for me offensively, is like no moving in advance rather than, and when you watch a lot of hockey, what happens is that the puck carrier is the only decision maker. Everyone else is waiting for the puck carrier to decide what they're going to do. And then when the puck carrier decides, they move the puck to the next person, then that player starts to activate when they get the puck. They're not activating and moving purposefully in advance of the puck. That's what I mean by playing off the puck. And when you're doing that, like we talk about it as, in anticipating or, whatever, I don't think it's that. I think it's more of a player knowing where the competitive advantage is, preserving the space, and understanding the timing of the play, connecting visually with the puck carrier, and then moving so then they become more attractive to get the puck to. That's what I'm talking about. I don't see that enough. And especially in the very top players at certain ages, I want to see more of it. And I think we can coach that, we can teach it. I don't think you're going to get there with just playing small area games. I think that's part of the solution. I don't think that's all the solution. And I think as the players are getting better and better and better, the coaches are required to get better and better and better to service those players. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of that type of play, because then we're going to play faster. The puck's going to move better. We're going to get in more dangerous situations, and the girls are going to have a chance to understand how that movement off the puck contributes to really a much more sophisticated offense. That's what I'm talking about. So I hope that answers your question, Kim, but that's really what I was getting at. And I think what happens, just to finalize that point, is we get away with a small percentage of the team being able to decide the outcome of the game. So we just let them do that. Every so often, one kid just gets a break, makes a one-on-one move, takes it to the net. That's the game. And I think we get away with that for too long in the girls' development process to force us to develop these other skills, where I think the boys are forced to learn that more often, more like earlier, so that it does feed into that, and then they learn it, and then it becomes a little bit more of a sophisticated offense. And that's not to say that you can't go to a boys minor midget game and see a kid try to go one-on-one all game. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's more evidence that that's occurring in the boys game earlier, that they're playing off the puck with a little more purpose than the female game. And I can't wait until that comes, because I really think that their mindset, as like the female mindset when they're playing, is built for that cohesive movement, and we just don't get it early enough. I think we rob them of that too by not getting that early enough. That's my entire point.
Does anybody have any questions related to that?
Well, I'll take another shot at it. So then that begs the question, and you've been around, high level women's hockey a fair bit, Darryl. There are players that, and we can use some names here, but I've been the privilege to watch them play. Victoria Bach, Darryl Watts would be two great examples who are phenomenal away from the puck. I mean, they're phenomenal with the puck, but having coached against them in junior, they'd be standing miles away from the puck, and I was so nervous that someone was going to get it to them, and they would just all of a sudden jump into that space, that slot, that timing, instantaneously, and the puck's in the back of our net, and they seemingly came out of nowhere. And I mean, at the junior level, you can imagine how many points they scored. I'm sure you're aware, right? It's interesting looking at the PWHL draft. They fall pretty low down, probably for a variety of reasons I have no idea about, or some I have some idea about. But I think, to your point, there's always been this valuation in the female game of you got to look like you're going hard the whole time, and you got to be hard on pucks, and I call that kind of the old school NHL version I grew up watching, right, where it's just like go hard all the time. So I think that sort of feeds into what you're saying, that these players, Melody Dow is another perfect example. I'm not sure why no one took her in the draft. I understand why she dropped out of the draft, but the IQ there is really, really high. So how do we change people's mindsets in the female game, that it's not just go, go, go. It's not always a speeded up game. It's not always, look like you're trying really hard kind of game. You've been involved at the highest level of the women's hockey. Like, is that mindset changing, or is that something that still needs to be worked on?
I mean, I think it still needs to be worked on. And I think that as you get more and more players, so it comes down to problem solving in when the environment puts you in a spot where you aren't able to do it the way that you've normally done it. Then you have to come up with other solutions. And I just don't think we create enough competitive situations where that's the case, where the players and coaches have to problem solve more often. We can just wait. Oftentimes, as the kids are growing up, you can see that they can just wait. And they can wait, and then eventually they're going to get a favorable puck that they can attack with. If they just wait long enough, there'll be a loose puck that they can jump on and go one-on-one, and off you go. And I think that we can, it's not to say that there's not players that don't do it. It's just, by and large, when you watch the games play, there, to me, is not enough real movement off the puck where people are doing it for where you can clearly see that there's a purpose. They're saving space. To your point, they're slowing down, or they're coming to a stop, or they move, they purposely veer off the beaten path so that they can preserve the space, and then at the right time they jump into the space to catch the puck, and then off they go to attack. And then when they get it, there was somebody reading off of them, that now when they get it, that person is then moving. And then when that person gets the puck, the next person is then finding a new place to be able to go. And you just see this happen in chains. And that's what I think we don't see enough of. And what you're talking about is there'll be a player here, there'll be a player there that really stands out. But we don't see enough teams that are doing it, and you don't see enough that's their identity, where you will see a lot more of that earlier on and in the boys game. And I think that when the female game starts to get more of this going, I think that it's going to be amazing. I'm anxious for the pro game to start. That's going to be an incredibly competitive league. Obviously, with just 6 teams and having access to the best players in the world, it's going to be difficult to go one-on-one and really find your way to score consistently. You're going to get maybe a couple that are but by and large, you're going to have to move off the puck. Maybe that's what we need. We just need more, a league that we can watch, that girls can watch consistently, that female coaches can watch consistently, that people that are around the game can watch consistently, and then start to see the box. Well, that there's Bach, there's Mueller, there's Poulin, there's 5 or 6 of these girls moving off. Then you have defensemen like Bourbonnais, who are unbelievable at their offensive game, moving off the puck. And I don't know that watching every 4 years, 2 games that are really worthwhile watching, the game, the semifinal or the preliminary game, where the US plays Canada, and then the gold medal game. I just don't think that's enough. Now with a professional league where it's incredibly competitive and it's going to be difficult to kind of play the way we've just been describing, you're going to have to do these other things in order to make play. You're going to start to see this bubble up because these girls, all of them, are used to generating points and offense at such a high rate. And all of a sudden you're in a professional league where every day, every game is a dogfight. Yeah, you're going to have to problem solve. You're going to have to figure out other ways. And I think it's going to come from the movement off the puck. And I think, Kim, that's what's going to drive it. We need more examples that's important, and that's what drives team play, and that's what drives offense. That's my hypothesis anyways.
Darryl, I'd like to interject here because it's almost like a hockey 101 for me when you're talking about what you're talking about, because in minor hockey and with the national women's team, to me, the movement off the puck, they don't know how to get open for the puck being available. And all of the incomplete passes are often the excuses of the mistake of the passer. Mm-hmm. Like they don't know how to use each other and support each other, let the puck do the work. And that kind of thinking is really lacking. So I'm just sharing a story with you. I ran into Gina after the first period of a U18 black versus white tryout game. She asked me what I thought. Dangerous question. And I told her, Gina, we've spent our lifetime on defensive zone play. I said, forget about it. These girls are talented. They're smart. They're fast. We haven't even let them use their tools because we've overcoached them, over-directed them, playing without the puck. So she understood that very well and had talked to Troy about it. And I think the program at that level, they're beginning to allow them to think. And Kim, on the female side, they think more than guys because they want to know why. The female psyche needs understanding for what are we doing this for? What's the reasoning behind it? So I think the potential for the growth of the game is just endless on the female side. So I just wanted to share that.
It's a great story, and it's a segue kind of to where I would go. One of my big criticisms as it relates to the development of the girls' hockey is that we encourage them to pass the puck entirely too hard. We are constantly telling them tape to tape, and it's like a rocket. And then, of course, on the backside of that, we criticize them for not being able to shoot off the pass. Well, how are you going to shoot off the pass when the puck coming to you is a rocket? Like it's nearly a shot coming at you, and now you're trying to catch it or shoot it off the pass. So it's difficult to ask for both of those things. And so one of the things I think would be a great thing if I was coaching a team is I would try to eliminate the verbiage of saying pass it tape to tape and put pressure on the player to zip it in there and pass it hard. I would prioritize having players use pucks to space more and have them, because that when you pass it pucks to space, one of the things that it does is if the non-puck carrier, like the support player, if they don't know necessarily, and they're not like reading in advance of where the puck should go, the puck carrier can help them go where they need to go, because the puck carrier just puts the puck where they lead them into the space. So if Kim and I are playing together, and Kim is much more advanced in her level of understanding of offense than I am. And I'm watching her and I'm trying to figure out where the hell should I go, which a lot of that's what it is. They when they don't know where to go or they don't know what the puck carrier is going to do, they stand and wait, or they stop and wait. And then once it's decided, then they move again. What I would like to see them do is let's leverage Kim's a more sophisticated understanding of where the puck should go and have her put that puck into space. And then once I see the puck go into that space, I'm then going to skate on to that touch. And it makes it a lot easier for me to play with Kim because I'm not at her level, but I can play with her because she can lead me around the rink by putting the pucks into space. Now, what happens though is Kim, she sees me open. I'm standing there, so she sees me open. So she zips the puck right to my stick. Well, I'm not thinking about where I need to go. I'm standing waiting to see what she's going to do. So there's no thought process. I'm waiting to see what she's going to do. Next thing you know, she zips it on my stick. So I'm not getting really any better. I'm not having to read or think off of Kim. And the more that we get Kim to move the puck into space, for me, you do it over and over and over again. Like you do that 3 or 4 times, and I'm a pretty bright kid. I'm going to look and I'm going to go, okay, like we get in these situations, she's probably going to put the puck over there. So I start skating in advance, knowing she's going to put the puck into that area. But if we constantly tell them to just go tape to tape, zip it, zip it, zip it, and we pass it hard, pass it hard, pass it hard, it is a direct discouragement of me having to read off of Kim and try to anticipate where she might put the puck. I'm just like holding the stick with both hands tight, making sure that when she does zip it on my stick, I don't lose it. So I hope that makes sense, but that might be a way around it, is like, let's stop asking them to pass it so hard. Pass it softly into space and get people to skate off the puck and have the speed of the play not be how fast I can pass it or how hard I can pass it, but how well I can move off the puck to get it. And that's not to say, again, that every pass should be done that way. I'm saying maybe it's 6 or 7 out of 10. 6 or 7 out of 10 pucks could probably be passed into space and lead someone. And then there's 2 or 3 where, you know what? Hey, it's a 2-on-1 and you got a kid driving the net. Yeah, I probably need to zip it in there. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's something. Or, I'm under a little bit of pressure and I got to move it to my partner. Maybe that's a pass. I got to zip it over there. But now I'm like on a 2-on-1 and the defenseman is backing up and I have the player on their off wing. Well, maybe that's not a pass I need to zip in there. Maybe I just float it over there so this girl can strike it and really hit it because I can control the weight of the puck. And let's use the weight of the puck to improve hockey sense. If I was coaching a team, that would be something that I would do.
Darryl, I'm just going to throw out a name, Johanny Walston, and we've talked about this many times here. He has a 3-step progression for teaching pass timing, and it's based on eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
And the receiver anticipates the space to be passed to receiving it at speed. But he goes through a series of stationary passing progressions with numerous pucks where you have to have eye contact. And then he goes through give and go with the coach to take a shot. Who keeps his head down? You have to have eye contact. The connectivity of the passer and the other players on the ice is sort of the glue to connecting everyone. And right now, they get the binders on coast to coast at this level and watching AA hockey here and AAA boys hockey here. That's it. And when they run out of space, then they start to look. And they usually turn it over. That's the reality of the way the game is played. You may, in your experience, and Kim, in yours, see possession passing, time passing, passing to space. But out here, I don't think we're there yet. Uh, Tom, you're coaching that level. I, we're just beginning to use the pass to advantage, and with girls hockey Calgary starting to keep a pass completion statistic to make them aware that your teammates matter, and the team wins, and the best team play is going to win. So that's sort of where I'm at dealing with mentoring female hockey here in Calgary. So Kim, Darryl, in your experience, I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, I was going to say, like, dovetailing on what Darryl says, and I teach a lot of passing, not as much in summer because you've got hockey camps, you've got a kind of a big range of abilities and levels, so you can't really have like the U11B girl ripping it with the U13A girl. But now I'm just coaching teams throughout the season mostly, and so you've got that connectivity in terms of their level. And we always talk. I always ask them, how hard should you pass it? Like that when we work on passing, it's the first, and they're all like, as hard as you can, tape to tape. Like that's everybody's answer. And they're shocked when I tell them that is not the answer. I said, you got to pass it hard enough. They're like, what's hard enough? I'm like, I don't know. The same pass will never happen twice in your whole life. So you've got to figure out what's hard enough, right? But it is, it's that idea like that it's got to be perfect and it's got to be right on my tape and it's got to be hard. And the amount of passing we see, and it's the same, I'm sure, at every level, right? Where it's just going like right under their triangle or 2 inches in front of their stick or behind them. They don't even attempt to pick it up. Like, how dare you give me a pass that is not directly on my tape, which always makes me laugh because I was taught if it's within 360 degrees of you, you got to be able to catch that puck. Even if it's coming at your chest, you got to find a way to knock it down. So, that's what I'm teaching. But I want to share a bit of a snippet, Wally. We had our first U9 games over the last 2 weekends. So I'm coaching my daughter's team. I'm coaching both our U9 teams. And of course, we're working on skating with the puck and hunting to get it back. And that's pretty much all we worked on. But I'm observing the games. We've videoed them. I think I sent Wally some of the video. And, some of them are trying to pass. And it's really interesting, actually, because we haven't, taught them the technique per se. They've done sessions, so they have worked on it in the past. But it's interesting to see, exactly what you guys are saying. These are very green players. Their first time playing rep. I'm pretty sure none of them ever passed in house league because they were the ones scoring 12 goals a game, right? And the ones who pass it, like you said, Darryl, like when it's like, I don't know what to do with this, so here you go. Or the ones who are trying to pass it with intent, right? Or with they don't need to pass it because they haven't run out of daylight, but they're trying to pass it to someone who they perceive to have that advantage. So it's a really interesting, opportunity for me to coach at that level and just see them at that grassroots and say, how can we develop this instinct? Because we actually scored a couple goals on one-timers off a pass to the middle because the girl just whacked at it and went in, and everyone's so impressed. I'm like, we haven't worked on it, guys. She just happens to understand how to get her puck or stick on that puck. But I guess I can help to solve the problem with this crew going forward. But it's really interesting to see just their natural instinct or willingness or eagerness to try it or do it, as opposed to having to do it because it's my last option. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that in girls hockey, from what I've seen, their instinct to pass is only like, okay, either they pass too much because they've been told you pass to her and you pass to her and you pass to her and then we score, which of course never happens. Okay. Or they hang on to it forever because they're the best kid on the ice, and then they do what Wally said, they run out of real estate and throw it. So obviously there's got to be a happy medium there. But it is interesting to see those little U9 kids. And I would argue, and I think you said it, Darryl, like this idea of passing, or moving into an advantageous space, happens organically at U13 with the boys. Would you suggest that would be, where you would really start to hammer that home with the girls in order to even the playing field, I guess? Or would you even start it earlier because the girls have this natural inclination, like Wally said, to want to know why and to understand the game? So when would you start to infuse it if you had this little team of players that you got to coach all the way through?
So, like, one of the big awakenings that I had was I always wanted, like, I wanted to teach kids when they were able to understand concepts. So in my mind, I felt like that was somewhere around 12 years old. Some of them may be a little more advanced, so let's say 11. Some of them may be on the backside of that, so maybe 13. So in that window of 11 to 13, I'm like, that's when they're, they're less egocentric, where they're only kind of concerned about what's going on in their own bubble, and they can maybe pay attention to what other things are happening, and you can talk to them a little bit and more concepts and talk about being able to see other things. And now I don't know that that's true. I think that maybe it is earlier that you can start these processes. And I tend to think that, especially with girls, that it probably is earlier. And you can probably introduce a lot more of this stuff. And, it doesn't have to be like all of it. I think that there is a progression of these concepts that go along over multiple years that you're trying to get. But in the end, I think if we have a better understanding of where we're trying to get to, we're trying to get to that the person off the people, not the person, people off the puck are going to move with a purpose, and they're going to try to find the way into a space with timing, and that the puck carrier is going to be able to see that intent and be able to deliver the puck there with the right weight so that the person is able to do what they need to do with it. If whether it's striking it off the pass, whether it's a catch and shoot, whether it's just coming up the ice, or whether there's a defenseman there and you got to zip it in, like understanding the weight of the puck. So I think that you can do this stuff. In my mind, I the more times I put a window on, or a ceiling on it, the more that ceiling ends up getting blown up in my face. So I'm less inclined to say, yeah, between 11 and 13, that's your window. I think that's when you can get into like some really interesting things, because now you do have a much more mature mind of a player that you can, and they have some experience. You can draw on some of that. So yes, I think you can get in, but I don't know that we need to like hit them with all of it at the same time. I think you can, as they get started, you can start to gradually piece in some of these things. So I'd be inclined to, if I was doing it, I would sit down, I would build out a progression over multiple years of two or three of these concepts that I would want to have gotten done each of the years, and kind of extrapolate that out over the duration of the time that I was expecting them to be there. So if it was 5 years or 7 years or however long, and then I would try to endeavor to have that be a step-by-step process. And then I would for sure have a situation in which a group would take on the concepts much faster. And instead of me doing 2 or 3, I'm doing 5 or 6 with that group, because they just get it and they get some momentum and then off they go. And so I would have allowance for that. Hey, if they're doing it, let's just keep going. That's kind of my approach now. I think your 11 to 13 window is a time in which I think you can really do a lot of damage in terms of really helping them. I think that that's a really big window, but I think there's a lot you can do before that.
Darryl, I totally agree. Tom coached U13 last year, and the focus on passing. I mean, I watched a game where in one shift they made 7 possession passes consecutive.
Yeah.
All year, if you see 2 passes in a row, oh, that's pretty good. So if he was able to achieve that at that level with, I believe they're capable of doing much more younger. In fact, reading your book, I think the kids are more able to understand it and extrapolate that information, interpret it, and apply it. They just don't have the skill set to bring them speed of foot and mind together. Their minds are far beyond any capacity we can imagine. I truly believe that.
I'm with you. Like I said, I've put a lot of ceilings on every player that I've worked with over the years, and groups that I've worked with, and I've had like a hypothesis of like, okay, this is what I think I can do, and then you get into it and you realize like I've sold this short. Like I should have maybe not been as laid it out so simply. I could have, maybe challenged them. And where that came from for me was the asking of questions while I was on the ice. So like, I guess where I ran into my biggest problems in these types of regards has been when I've been more assuming and then just ran my practice. I assume what I think they know based on their skill set, and to your point, the ability, the coordination that they have, and then I just don't factor in that maybe they can understand more than they can physically perform. Until I went to the line and asked the player, "Hey, that was an interesting play. Like, what were you trying to do there?" And then all of a sudden, boom, they give me this answer, and I'm like, "Whoa, I didn't expect that." And it just puts you in that space where you're like, man, like maybe they understand more than they're physically capable of at those given times. Because the trouble with our sport is you got to learn to skate. You got to be able to skate. And so that kind of like restricts sometimes the learning of skating, and then figuring out how to skate. And then you got the puck and the stick and people, bodies, everything's flying around. Like, it takes a while to kind of sort that out physically, like just physically understand the body position, where to be on my skates, the edges, controlling the puck with tempo, and then being able to get my head up while all this is going on. Like, that's a lot. It's not just running and walking and all of that. It's different. And so I never really factored that in enough, that, maybe they understand more than they physically can do. And maybe we should be planting seeds of these things earlier on. And then when they get more physically capable, you've planted enough seeds that then you have a chance to then take off. But I'm less inclined now to put ceilings on what they're capable of. I just look dumb. I just do. They always tend to overshoot my glass ceiling, and they just burst right through it.